Never in the history of mankind have such atrocities been enacted on a people as that which was enforced on the transatlantic slaves and their descendants. It is evident that our ancestors were sold into slavery to the Europeans by various African kingdoms and tribes. We did not only lose our freedom, our nationality, our name, our culture, heritage, and language was also lost. Today, we have the nationality imposed on us by our slave masters. We have their names. We speak their languages. We grab hold of and push forward their culture, customs, and religions.
And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men.
Yahuwah, our power, foreknew and foretold the events that would take effect upon his people from their enslavement in Matzrah, Egypt, to this very day and in time to come. Yahuwah revealed all events by his prophets, and as such, every nation or people involved in the enslavement of Judah during the transatlantic slave trade must be mentioned within Scripture. From the Africans who received guns from the Europeans that they used against us, to the owners of the ships that transported us, to the sellers and buyers within the slave market, all involved must be prophetically mentioned within Scripture. Despite what you call yourself today, the modern names of nations is not recognized or accepted by our Elohim. You can call yourself whatever you wish, but the reality is that to this very day you are known to the power of Judah and Israel by the names and nations of your forefathers as defined within the Scriptures. According to the prophecy declared by Yahuwah our power to the prophet Jeremiah, not a man, woman, or child of Judah would escape the horrific bitterness of slavery.
The cities of the south shall be shut up, and none shall open them. Judah shall be carried away captive, all of it. It shall be wholly carried away captive. Lift up your eyes and behold them that come from the north. Where is the flock that was given thee, thy beautiful flock?
If we are to accept this prophetic truth as written, it is without doubt reasonable to definitively state that not one man, woman, or child of Judah would escape slavery and remain in Africa. All Judah were carried away captive by ships. All were taken captive during the transatlantic slave trade, and our history confirms and bear witness to the fulfillment of this prophecy.
When ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is most likely there is something there. And most likely, maybe that they were the original Israelites. We know they were sold into slavery. We know now that they're fulfilling prophecy.
The prophecy of Psalms 83 tells us that the enemies of Yahuwah would assemble themselves together in crafty consultation in order to devise and implement deceitful and disastrous methods against this people, with the sole purpose of destroying them as a nation. Their artful and aimless schemes have worked exceptionally well. They have skillfully achieved their desired result. Because today, we are not a nation. We have lost all knowledge of our past, and by continual instigation, we have become exactly what and who they want us to be: a debased and debilitated people, known by the names and the nationality given to us by our slave masters. Today, we are a scattered people, living in the lands of our enemies.
Keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
In the following video, you will see an African leader openly admitting the role of his ancestors, the people of Ghana and the people of the Gold Coast, in capturing and selling the house of Judah into slavery.
I wish at this point to particularly to apologize deeply on behalf of the chiefs and people of Gold Coast and Ghana for the atrocities, the cruelty, the inhuman treatment that were committed 400 years ago by my ancestors during the Atlantic slave trade.
The king of the Ayo kingdom in Nigeria apologizes to the victims of the slave trade. I take the bull by the horns to apologize for the role kingship played in slave trading because of material life. Many black Americans are yet to recover from the wound of slavery. I am apologizing to the accidental blacks in Cuba, Brazil, Caribbean, America, and other parts of the world. I want the victims to acknowledge our regret for the past so we can move forward. The white man never forced us. King Tegbesu and King Gizo, who were kings of Dahomey, the Fon or Fonu people, accumulated great financial wealth from the slave trade. King Gizo, who reigned from 1797 to 1818, stated the following: "The slave trade is the ruling principle of my people. It is the source and the glory of our wealth. The mother lulls the child to sleep with notes of triumph over an enemy reduced to slavery." This statement of truth is echoed by James Houston, who worked for a firm of 18th century slave merchants of London, who wrote, "What a glorious and advantageous trade this is! It is the hinge on which all the trade of the globe moves." The African nations or tribes who for financial gain became deeply involved and precipitated the enslavement of the house of Judah are known today as Ashanti people, Songhay people, Shalaga people, Ahanta people, Fonte people, Fon people, Ewe people, Ayo people, Yoruba people. the descendants of the transatlantic slaves, and these African tribes are not brothers. We are not the same people. I will shortly demonstrate by scripture who these African nations and tribes are. It is very clear from historical records that they viewed us as enemies. When Judah was sold and taken away by ships, the Fon or Fonu people of Dahomey took over the land our ancestors occupied as the Kingdom of Judah. The land is today known as modern-day Benin and Togo, a truth historically substantiated by 4 major European nations. There are 7 known historical European maps dating from 1718 to 1794 that verifies the existence of the Kingdom of Judah on the west coast of Africa, within the location of the nations known today as modern-day Benin and Togo. British map, 1747. British map, 1725. British map, 1794. French map, 1718. French map, 1792. Spanish map, 1771. German map, 1737. Psalms 83 also prophetically informs us of what nations will be involved in this conspiracy against the house of Judah, against the children of the Most High. The historical and biblical lineage of the African nations or tribes that participated and precipitated the enslavement of the house of Judah must be mentioned here. However, how can we accurately identify them within the 10 confederate nations cited in Psalms 83, verse 6 to 8?
The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot.
To accurately identify the ancestral lineage of the African nations and tribes mentioned, we must first clarify their role within the conspiratorial confederation, because it is their role that will disclose who they really are according to Scripture. Their role is their identification marker. As such, with the guns supplied to them by the Europeans, the role of the African nations and tribes was to conquer the Kingdom of Judah, hunt and capture the men, women, and children that escaped, and convoy our ancestors in chains to the slave forts, before leading them onto the awaiting slave ships for a pre-agreed price. In simple terms, they sold the house of Judah to the Europeans. Yahuwah commands us to establish all matters by 2 or 3 witnesses. Therefore, to biblically identify and confirm the historical and biblical lineage of the African nations or tribes that participated and precipitated the enslavement of the house of Judah, we must apply Deuteronomy 19:15.
One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established.
Psalms 83, verse 1 to 8, identifies 10 confederate nations and defines their heinous agenda against the house of Judah. Psalms 83 is therefore our first witness in our quest to identify the biblical ancestry or lineage of the African nations or tribes that sold the house of Judah into slavery. In our quest to identify the biblical lineage of the African nations or tribes that sold the house of Judah into slavery, our second witness is Joel chapter 3, verse 4 to 6.
Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border.
Our second witness, Joel chapter 3 verse 4 to 6, identifies three biblical nations, Tyre, Zidon, and the Palestines, and declared that these three nations sold the children of Judah to the Grecians. Contrary to popular belief, there are no prophecies to be found within Scripture stating that the northern kingdom of Israel will sell the southern kingdom of Judah into slavery. According to the prophecies as given to Joel, it is solely the nations of Tyre, Zidon, and the Palestines that are responsible for selling the children of Judah to the Grecians, the Europeans. Now that we have identified, according to Scripture, the nations responsible for selling the house of Judah into slavery, it is imperative that we return to Psalms 83, verse 6 to 8, in order to ascertain if Tyre, Zidon, or the Palestine are members of the 10 conspiratorial confederate nations. If they are found to be members of the conspiratorial confederate nations, it is therefore an indisputable fact that the African nations or tribes that sold the house of Judah to the Europeans are historically the biblical nations of Tyre, Zidon, and the Palestine. As you can see, Tyre and the Palestine are members of the 10 confederate nations of Psalms 83. And although Zidon is not mentioned here, they are also of Canaanite lineage, Hamites, and so are the Palestines. Tyre and Zidon are mentioned together 10 times in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Acts. And in the days of Yahushua our sovereign, the Canaanites, Tyre and Zidon, were leagued with the Edomite king Herod.
And Herod was highly displeased with them of Tyre and Zidon. But they came with one accord to him, and having made Blastus the king's chamberlain their friend, desired peace, because their country was nourished by the king's country.
According to Joel chapter 3, the African nations or tribes that sold the kingdom of Judah into slavery are of Canaanite and Philistine lineage. They fulfilled the role assigned to them by Edom, the head of the 10 confederate nations cited in Psalms 83. The role assigned to and accomplished by the African nations is what enabled us to identify who they truly are, according to Scripture.